to do anything these days. You have to allow them to read your settings, listen to your,
Love it.
Nuts. It's nuts. Yeah. It's all data collection, data mining.
It looks like we're streaming, right? It says on top.
We will be in a minute when it goes live. There it is.
Nice.
All right. So we are. Let me.
You're muted.
Yeah, there you go. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, awesome. Yeah, for some reason I'm hearing this, which I shouldn't be. Is there a way I can? That's strange. This is let me try that. All right, you still hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, awesome, good. So we're good. I think I figured it out. All right, man. Well, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being patient.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get started. Let me just start recording, and we will go. Excuse me. All right, we are live with Mr. Jim Black. Jim, what is up, my friend?
Not too much. Just working from my office type room at my house.
The home office, man. We all have one of those these days, right? I know I certainly do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff. Well, hey, you know what? At least we have a home to have an office in. So I want to look at that and be grateful, because this episode is all about being positive in the midst of all this craziness. So before we get started, let me just acknowledge Vulcan 7, who is our sponsor, and they've been supporting us for a while. And it's a great time to use their products right now, where you can call expireds and force sale by owners and load your database in and call everybody in your database, which is what we're doing, and use the CRM for follow-up calls and use the calendar and everything. So you can try the whole suite as a guest or as a listener to Path to Mastery. Just go to vulcan7.com/path to mastery. And that'll be it for today as far as sponsors. So masters, welcome. Jim Black, what's up, brother? Man, that whole intro was all messed up. It's all good though, man. We're just gonna go with it.
All good. Everything's different now, man. You get screaming kids in the background, barking dogs, it's just a different environment.
It is, man. I'm trying to just save some time on having to do an intro and then go into it. It's a lot of work for people who don't have podcasts. We'll talk about that another day. Well, Listen, I just want to say I appreciate you joining us. You and I go way back, man. We met each other, I don't know, 18 years ago or so.
Something like that, yeah.
At a camping trip, I think. Yep. And
it was.
And then we, a couple of years later, went into business together. You were on my team your first 3 or 4 years in the business, and then you went off, did your own thing, and now you're a killer, man. You're doing a lot of business. You're I think number one in our local MLS right now.
Yep.
And I just want to say thanks for just being who you are and spending some time with us today.
I appreciate it. No, it's definitely I appreciate you asking me. It's an honor to be on here.
Sure. And just so people can put some perspective, what do you do for business? What's your volume look like?
Yep. So our team last year, we did about 56,212 sales. This year we're tracking and have a goal of right around 79,287 sales.
That's awesome.
In Central Mass and Northern Connecticut is where we focus.
I remember years ago when you were on the team and we broke 100 units, and that was like a massive deal. Like nobody in that area had done that, and now you're up in close to 300 transactions. That's awesome, dude.
Yep, just people. It's math and people. That's how you get there.
Yeah. All right, so we got. Well, you know what, and I'm glad you said that, because right now, I'm guessing things are changing a little bit, or is it still math and people?
I think it's math and people. I think the biggest thing is, a challenge we all have is right now, instead of being face to face every day, we've got 14 people that are Zoom calling. That's how we communicate. And I think the biggest thing is if you don't have the right people right now, you're going to have a big challenge. If you don't have motivated people that are actually going to go do their job without you having to babysit them, it would, so right now I think we're doing well through this because of the fact that I don't have those people. Like, and there's enough for them to do where, and I think there's a trust factor too. I trust that they're going to get the job done. And, if they weren't getting the job done, we'd have to talk. But I think that's probably one of the biggest things. It's math and people, but it's really being purposeful on who those people are.
So when you talk about people, like who are you referring to? What kind of people? Are these agents? What?
So
affiliates?
I think well, I guess it could be all of the above, really. So with the agents and any of your staff members, I mean, being the right people where they're, people with high levels of integrity, people that have a passion and desire to grow and learn, and people that are team players. And I think it's some of the same stuff you said with, some of the resources we use, allied resources, where, I think it's even more crucial right now as a real estate agent to have really strong relationships with attorneys and loan officers. And I mean, I'm calling those people like every day and saying, I just ran into something crazy again today. How do I navigate this? And being willing to do the same for them. So every week we have at least once a week on our team calls, we'll have a loan officer on there to just tell us what's different than last week, because it's changing pretty much every day.
Yeah, no doubt. So what are your people? So let's talk about your team members, the people that are creating production for themselves and for you.
Yep.
What are they doing? What are they doing different? Or what are they doing? Is it the same?
It's somewhat the same. I mean, one of the big things we've focused on is reaching out to our sphere more so than we ever have. So that's been the focus of the agents on my team, is going and doing that. The fact that we're not going on as many appointments has also got us being able to call more people and chat with more people, and really letting them. We're not trying to push people to go, you should buy, you should sell right now. We're just educating, and depending on where they are in their life, there's going to be people that need to move today and people that don't. You mentioned expired and for sale by owners. I mean, expireds are up, I don't know, 30-something% over last year. So I've told, we have an inside sales agent, and I said, we really need to be focusing on these because this is something that's happening right now. And there's a lot of uncertainty. So our conversations might be a little different, but we're still calling a lot of the same people that we were calling before, because there's plenty of people to call. You can never run out of people to call. If anybody says they are running out of people to call, they just don't have enough sources.
Sure. And you can always pick up this little thing right here and just start, if you can see that, it's
you just start dialing your phone. Everybody's got hundreds of people in there.
Everybody has one of those, right? Well, but let's talk about that. So you talked about expireds. What I mean, well, before we even go there, one thing, and I'm sure you're seeing this as well, is the amount of temp withdrawals. I've been in this business 17 and a half years. I've never, ever seen anything like the amount of temp withdrawals. Like 80% are temp withdrawals now. I think, I don't know if this is an exact statistic, but I've heard are like 75% of all sellers took their homes off the market. Wow. So I think what's going to happen is once they kind of let the gates open up, the market's going to get flooded with inventory.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I had a mindset around that changed when I was on a call with a couple other top agents in areas where they are completely locked down in real estate. They can't leave their houses. They can't go into houses. And they were putting houses on the market every day. And the reason behind that is, one is, I mean, you can do video tours. You can really show people every bit of the house. And we've sold a couple of houses that way. But what they were saying is, well, what happens when those floodgates open that you talked about? It's pretty much like going on Amazon and you start, you're shopping, you're putting stuff in your cart, and then you go to check out. Well, what are buyers doing right now? Everybody's on the internet looking at houses, and they're going and putting stuff in their shopping cart. If your house isn't out there, they're going to have another house in their shopping cart, and you're going to miss that rush that happens when all things settle down.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And there's also the other side, and I know you know this too, is there are some people that it doesn't make sense to have their house. Maybe they're a senior, maybe they have health conditions, maybe they can't take the risk of having random people coming in and out of their house, right? Is that,
Yeah, and
but
then
then
they
there's
should.
other ways too, right? I mean, there are other ways to market the
Yeah,
house.
yeah, and yeah, selling the house, it might not be the right time for them, and it's really just letting them decide. I just came off a Zoom listing appointment right before we got on this call, and that was, the kind of the conversation we had. As I said, I mean, we could do it right now this way. We can wait and do it this way. I mean, I'm just giving the data that I know
Mm,
and the options that they have, and I'm letting them decide what way they want to go. I mean, if they decided to do something irresponsible and unsafe, I'm not going to agree to it. But if
sure.
they're being responsible and safe based on a scenario, I'm going to give them options and let them decide what's best for them.
So so when you say let's do it this way, what does this way look? Why don't you give us like the
Yep.
bullet points to
Yeah.
that?
I mean, this way is, we every house gets a 3D tour now. So we bought a 3D camera so we can go ahead and do those on every house. We make
Okay.
sure that every buyer that comes into the house before they're showing gives us a pre-approval. They're going to give us
Ooh, I like that.
a
That's
form,
cool.
a
We
form
should have been
sign.
doing that 20 years ago.
Correct. These are things we should be doing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the sign form that our office has for the COVID, basically saying they're not sick and they know they can't touch anything when they come in the house. And in that email, they need to confirm that they watched the 3D tour. And then when they set up the appointment, we're setting up 2 to 3 blocks a week of 2 hours where we're giving 15-minute showing times. We are
Mm,
clearing those showings. So we ask the seller to turn on the lights to open the doors. But if they haven't, we're going to do that. We're going to have gloves, mask, keep our separation from the clients, let them see the house. And then, next party they have to be out in 15 minutes. Next party comes in. That way the seller only has to worry about going and wiping things down 2 to 3 times a week rather than 5 times a day.
mm,
Because if it
yeah.
was 5 times a day, they're not going to do it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you and I spoke a few days ago or earlier in the week, and you were telling me how you were waiting outside of a property for the buyer, and I was like, "Oh wow!" But that it made sense, and then it made me reconsider how we were doing things too. So,
Yeah. And
well,
I
I'm
don't,
doing the same thing now.
and honestly, I don't know if it's right or wrong. And I don't think none of us have navigated this before ever. I'm doing what I believe to be right based on the conversations I've had with people and what I think is, I want to make sure that people stay safe. I also want to make sure that our economy doesn't shut down, because if real estate shuts down, our economy shuts down, and that's a
Mm.
bigger problem.
Yeah, and I also I think I the thing that I like about what you said is it gives us more control over the situation, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
if we're just opening the door and letting, because every agent that we deal with is just a true professional and has the highest integrity. We know that in this industry. But yeah, we have a lot more control of what's happening at the listing, right? And that's what I liked about what you had said to me, not even before this interview when we were talking
Yep.
earlier in the week.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that happens too is what I found is when I started doing that, because I didn't love the idea of wearing the mask. I thought I looked stupid. This is crazy. What it did is it made other people that were coming to that house to go back to their car and grab that mask that they didn't feel like wearing.
Hmm.
Or they come in and they say, hey, maybe I should be wearing a mask. So I actually think it actually helped with public awareness of the fact that, yeah, hey, this was before they said you should be wearing a mask anyway. But public awareness, like one at a time, like, hey, maybe I should start wearing a mask. And maybe that helps a little bit with keeping us all safe.
Remember when we went to family reunion last month in February or 2 months ago, and I was wearing a mask on the plane and
Yep.
everybody was making fun of me?
Yep. And
It's
and
yeah.
now if you're and the thing is that now if you're not, people are going to start questioning what's wrong with you.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, it's only because I'm a runner and I've been listening. It's ironic because I listen to a NPR news every morning. It's called Up First. It's 15 minutes. It's amazing, and it gives you the news. And I was hearing about this coronavirus they kept talking about back in December,
Yeah.
and every day they were talking about it, but you were not hearing about it here at all. And I just kept hearing it and listening to it, and I'm I'm like, something's not lining up. Like, this is kind of like, in there talking about it's growing and more people are getting sick, and yet we're not really doing anything over here. And yeah, anyway, not that I know more than anybody else in you know, that runs the country, but I tell you, I was listening to stuff. Anyway, let's switch gears. You talked about expireds earlier. Yeah. Like, what are your people saying to expireds now? What do those conversations sound like?
I think it's a similar, I think it's really a similar conversation. It's just asking, you had planned on moving, your home came off the market. What's your plan now? And maybe just adding in like, and I'm stealing this obviously from somebody else who came up with it, but how has this changed your real estate plans? Like, just add that to the conversation. Because the thing is, just because this all happened doesn't mean that whatever they have going on changed. It may not have. And I'll call people and I'll ask them that question. Like, how, somebody who said, hey, I'm going to move in June, I call them up and say, hey, how's this change your real estate plans? They say it hasn't. It hasn't changed it at all. So really just asking those questions. And I think just being compassionate and understanding, like, and how are you doing? Like, how, you might actually, it might actually help in normal conversations with expireds. Just have a little bit of compassion, talk to them and build some relationship.
Excuse me. I think that's one thing I've noticed the most is that it can be the difference maker. If you start the conversation with, hey, you know what, are you healthy? Are you okay? Just, checking in. I know your house came off the market, but more importantly, are you good right now? Right. And then you're right. It's that compassion. It's an empathy. Then say, yeah, I get your house is off. Make sure it makes sense. What's the plan for the future?
Yeah. Because it's a lot of the calls are not the like, hey, what are you doing right now? It's more of a like, what is your plan? And a lot of it's probably going to be future. Some of it will be today, but a lot of it's going to get pushed out a few months. And there's going to be this surge and
pipeline.
Being the one that's there for those people, which I also believe that, right. So every year, October, November, this, that's like the gold mine right there. That's like when you should be calling everybody under the sun, because you're going to get all these people saying, no, I'm not moving. I'm not moving. I'm not moving. It's Christmas. It's New Year's. It's, we're going to wait until after the holidays. We're going to wait till the spring. It allows you to sit in the office all day and make phone calls. Well, this is the same. It's not the same, but it's the same type of thing where you're going to talk to tons of people and you're going to build a pipeline of these people for when we come out of this. They're going to need somebody to talk to. They're going to need somebody that they trust, somebody that's helped them with whatever it is. And be genuine. Like, when you're calling them, be genuine. Like, I actually want to help these people. And there might be people that literally need some sort of help that you may actually be able to connect them with.
Yeah. You sent an email out, I don't know, a month ago, and I stole it. Thank you. I asked you if I could though, and I appreciate that. Dave Hammy, Dave Hammy was sending out a series of emails too that were super helpful. We were just forwarding them along to our clients, and so many people were like appreciative. And I think right now people are appreciative. Just to, like, I don't know if it was you and I having this conversation, but I called someone I haven't talked to in like 9 years, and they were like, they were like happy I called, right? It wasn't like, you're a dude, why are you calling me? They were, I'm just, hey, geez, this, and I'm just being honest with people. I'm saying, you know what, the one thing about this craziness now is it's made me go back and look at my database and start reconnecting with some people I haven't talked to in years. And I apologize for not connecting sooner. And then just get into a conversation with people. Well,
and that's where your business is going to come from in the future, more so than ever before. All of that, we cut a lot, we're still doing a lot of other stuff, but we still cut a lot of sources because I really think that's where it's going to be. And really right now, people that need to navigate through this, they need someone to educate them on what's actually happening. Because everybody I call, I'm not asking about real estate. I'm not going to talk about real estate. And if they ask me that question, like, oh, I'm not looking to move, I'm like, I wasn't calling to see if you're moving. How are you doing? But most of the people are asking me questions about real estate. They want to know how, and some of the people, I've got a couple calls out of the blue from, clients of mine where they're like, how are you guys doing? Like, how, what's happening? Like, I was, I was thinking the other day, I'm struggling, and I was thinking, like, how are you? And which was one of the, I think there's always a silver lining, and you said this before to me a bunch of times, is what's good about it. And that's the thing, like, okay, like, this is a mess, what's good about it? Well, there's a lot that's good about it. We've slowed our lives down, allowed us to connect, maybe it's only virtually, to people in a deeper way than we have in a long time. So there's a lot of good that comes out of this, and there's a lot of bad, but it's a lot of good.
Yeah, amen. I think we have to sometimes look for the good too, right? Because you can, my wife and I, we were talking about it earlier, and honestly, I feel like my relationship with my wife has gotten better over the last, month and a half, which is cool because we've spent more time together and we've talked, and but there's a lot of people. I saw an article somewhere, and it was, again, I don't know if this is an exact number, but it was along the lines of less than 73% of all Americans have more than $1,000 in savings, and $1,000, and that means more than 3 out of 4 people are going to have no money next month, or even they may not even have money now. And that's why you're seeing all these massive lines at food shelters and all this other craziness. So, and I was like, we better be grateful. We better not be complaining about, oh, I got to stay in a house, or my business is a little slow. Cause, that's just my point, is we want to focus on gratitude and things to be grateful for. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to hear those types of things. At least for me, I had to hear those types of things to really understand what I need to be grateful for, what I have to be grateful for.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And sometimes, like, even you mentioned that email that I sent out, and those people I didn't even know on there that responded to me, those people that reached out. But what it did is it did exactly that. It kind of pulled me away from all that stuff.
Mm.
And what it allowed me to do was, sorry, I just had a seller calling me. People are still selling. But the the but it allowed me to really pull away from thinking about myself and thinking about whatever challenges I had. Because even though we still have business going, like, every bit of, I mean, this, Dave, every bit of business is like 10 times harder than it was
Sure.
just a little bit ago. So for us to just work 4 times as hard to get half as much, and that's the conversation I have on my team. And there's definitely all these challenges, but we're going to move forward through this. And and I think this is probably the biggest time where people have to think about, like, how do I give whatever it is you do to give,
Yeah.
like, whether it's financially, physically, like, whatever it is, like, do it, and maybe double down on it, so you're it'll keep you in gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree with you 100%. And it's also a time, and you tell me if you agree, we have to change the way we're doing certain things with relation to what we're investing money on, what we're spending on, I know for us, we had coming into this, we had about 7 or so pendings,
Mhm.
and, a bunch of them have closed. One fell apart. We had 2 more closings. Since this thing, we've only put 1 house under contract.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm grateful that we have resources, and, but at the same time, we are making cuts. I'm looking at things like I shut off my MailChimp account because I don't
Mhm.
necessarily need to be spending $80 a month on that. I called Ylopo and we put our budget down to a quarter of what we were spending before. Realtor.com, everything's cut in half, right? Are you doing those things too?
Yeah, we cut about 15% of our budget. I mean, some of it was just fat, honestly.
Hmm.
Some of it was stuff like travel, where we set a really big budget, where we really ironed it down and say, okay, if we're going to go, say we're going to go to this training, well, like, little things, like, okay, like, if you go and we pay for, if I have a room, I need to split it with somebody else, or I have to pay for half the room, like, little decisions like that.
Well,
But that stuff
you're not splitting any rooms now anyway, right? So
no, I'm
that's
not. But I'm saying,
yeah.
when we get back to it, that was a lot of what we looked at, is those little things. And it was, even little office expenses, like, are we getting the best deal on water? Like, we
Mm.
renegotiated our radio and TV stuff we were doing.
Sure.
So a
Yeah.
lot of things we cut where we could cut, we renegotiated where we renegotiated, and there's still a bunch of stuff that we still have to go through, like things
Yeah.
that we still need to cut, but we made a list of things we need to cut now, and then we made a list if things get really bad that we have to cut later. So we made sure that
Yeah.
we made those decisions up front so it's not emotional later if things got really bad.
Yeah. Well, I think, I'm fortunate to have gone through the last, recession or whatever you want to call it in 2007, 8, and 9. And that was one of the things that Gary Keller taught us back then, was to look at everything, and anything that's not essential, like necessary, it has to be cut. So, I kind of did that same, same exact, I don't know, what do you want to call it? I'm like at a loss
Exercise.
of words. Yeah, thank you.
Exercise.
Sure, exercise. Same exercise now, and I found a lot of stuff that we could cut away, that we didn't really affect the business as much as and we're making up for everything right now by just calling a lot of people. We're doing more cold calling than we've ever done, and more connecting with people. So I think that's where we'll make up the difference. In, like you said earlier, just filling that pipeline. I think right now, 8 out of 10 people we talk to, they're not going to do anything right now. So it's just about making sure when they're ready, we can get back in touch with them.
Yeah, I think we get excited when we actually have a reason to leave the house for the day, because it's, but it gives you all this extra time to do those, to talk to people, connect. That's really what we should all be focused on for real estate agents, where we have an 8-hour day of work every day if we choose to,
Mm,
without leaving our house.
yeah. What are you guys doing? I mean, remotely, how are you adapting to that? Has it been challenging for you, or what, your team?
So so initially we started right away. We had a leadership meeting with me, Olivia, and Jason every morning from 7:30 to 8. We switched it up because it's a little bit less crazy to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every morning our entire team gets on a stand-up call at 8:30. We talk about our gratitudes. We go through our goals for the day. We do role play for, from 8:45 to 9. We still doing a group training on Tuesdays, a group team meeting on Thursdays. So all our meetings, everything we did before is still in place. And those things, having that morning meeting just kind of starts the day.
Yeah.
Because people are, they may or may not shower before that, but they got to get ready. They got to get going for the day, as opposed to just, getting up whenever. And so it's keeping a level of structure. And I even sent, I stole it from Matt Miali. He had sent it out to a few people, but he had like a workout of the day, basically, which was what does your day look like? Basically a new schedule for this time. And I modified and shared that with my team and said, pick a schedule for yourself. It doesn't have to be
Mm,
perfect here, but something you're actually going to follow and do it. And I've, so just been working on really refining people's schedules on a personal basis. Like, okay, you got this list of follow-ups you got to make. Okay, like let's set an hour to do that, like every
yeah.
day. So really being more structured, because being in the office, I think, made it easier to be structured. Being at home, it's
Yeah.
not easy.
Well, I think the routine is key. I had somebody on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about this, and he's been working remotely for years. He actually works with companies. He brings them in and helps them get set
Mhm.
up remotely with different types of, not just Zoom, but there's other products as well that work for that. But one thing he had talked about that was so critical, which was you just said, sounds like you kept your routine going. You just moved it to a virtual routine. So you're still doing your stand-up meetings, you're still doing your role play, everybody's still checking in the morning, not like like just, yeah, it's just like, hey, do whatever you want, and if we can connect, we'll connect with you in the afternoon, right? People are showing up and they're putting in. But the other thing he said too was you need to check out on the weekends too, if that's what you normally did. Because I find
Yeah.
myself, I'll just go, man. I'll put in 12, 13 hours in front of a computer all day, and I'll do it on Saturday. And he said there was a lot of importance in that as well.
Yeah, that's probably been the challenge for me. I thought you had like a camera going watching what I'm doing, because that's what I've been doing. I think since this started, I think one Sunday I didn't work most of the day, but honestly, it's been like 12 to 14
Yeah.
hours most days, just trying to keep up on everything that's happening. And a lot of it is honestly, there's challenges we're running into every day that we never had before. So my team members need me. And the problem with that is like my team members need me, but so does my family. And honestly, it's been a struggle. It's been a challenge. I'm trying to find that line where I want to help my team through it, but I also want to make sure I'm available. Obviously, I'm not working tomorrow. It's Easter, but I have a ton of I have a couple listings I need to send out contracts for. I just had somebody call me while I was on this. Like we're moving. We still have a lot of stuff going.
Yeah.
And I need to make sure that I block that time off. Like even if it's just that what I used to do, which was an hour a night where I just said my phone is completely off. Like shut it off. I ignore it. Spend time with the family. And really just getting back to that, because you're right. It's so easy because I'll start my day at 6:30. I'll get on the computer and I'll be going till 5, maybe 6. I think yesterday was probably like 6:30 to 6 or so.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So what would you say right now are the biggest challenges that you're seeing with your team and other agents you're talking to dealing with this?
I think the biggest challenge we're starting to run into is the what's happening in buyers' lives is starting to happen a little bit, where we had one person low credit score, somebody else furloughed, but then we're starting to have I'm starting to notice that literally as of today, where I'm getting a lot of people that were really hot to trot serious are getting concerned about their jobs and stuff. So I'm getting just wondering if that's going to have an effect. But I'm noticing in the last day or two, I've had a couple things where I've had people that are just a little more wishy-washy that were like really, really serious. And I think some of it is, fear of financial insecurities and that, things like that are going to happen. I think with my agents, one of the biggest challenge that they're running into is just fear of that, like fear of financial insecurity, because everything was going good. And I'm telling them to prepare for 30% fallout of their deals. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I also don't want to not prepare for it. I'm preparing for our year, even though we were planning for 50% growth this year, I'm planning to do what we did last year. Yet we still have a goal of a 50% growth, but I'm making sure that I'm being conscious of it at a deeper level and watching it more daily. I think some of that comes across to my agents and they start getting a little concerned, or they'll have a deal fall apart. And then, so I don't know if the financial fears are real, because if I look at their pipeline, it's fine. But I think with everything coming at us, regardless of what our pipeline looks like, it's scary. And it's not going to be as good as the actions we're taking. It's just not, there's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're seeing legitimately working probably 4 times harder as far as in the lead generation, and probably getting a 25% of the results we used to get based on the activity. So we have to mentally be prepared right now for, and I don't have a crystal ball. So I don't know when this is going to end. I don't think anybody does, to be honest. And we don't know the impact it's going to have either. Even when they do say, okay, everybody can start going outside with masks now. What's going to be the fallout of everything that just happened? We don't know. So I think you need people that are really strong minded right now and are going to be committed to showing up every day, like you said, and just because you said in the beginning, it's a numbers game. Even now it's a numbers game. The numbers may be a lot smaller. Like you may have to talk to a lot more people, but the numbers are still there. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're cautiously optimistic. I mean, we brought one person on since this all started. We have somebody else starting on Monday. So we haven't stopped with our forward moving plans. We've shifted things. And honestly, so I brought an agent on, brand new agent, a little challenging from how do you train them virtually. But we've been working on that. One thing I would say though, is they're coming into this market, which is normal to them because they don't know any other.
Yeah.
So if anything, if you got a team and people their heads aren't in the game, go bring on a new agent. I think it's a great idea because it's good. What it's going to do is it's going to, because they're going to think it's normal. It's a lot of work. When I started on your team, it was 2010 when I came back to real estate. And it was a horrible market. And I didn't know any better. That was just the market. And I just worked and didn't get a lot of results, and worked and didn't get a lot of results. And that's just what I thought it was like. And then eventually results showed up. So I think having people that come in that don't know any better, that aren't comfortable, because right now it's been easy. The last few years, I mean, it's been easy. And if you came in the last like 4 or 5 years into the business or less, you haven't had it tough. And even me coming in really 2010, I haven't gone through the mess. Like, I started at the bottom, but I wasn't going through the mess. So it's, it's going to be tough, and we need to shift everything and be okay with a very challenging time going forward. But like you said, I'm optimistic. Like, I'm excited for the other side of this, because I believe our business is going to explode because of all of what we're doing right now. But it's scary for me too, scary walking through it, because I'm trying to make financial decisions to make sure that we move forward, yet I'm not so irresponsible that we end up going bankrupt too. It's a fine line that we have to walk.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and I like what you said. And I think if everybody listening to this is going to take one thing, and I want to get your one thing after, but I'm saying from listening, I mean, I think it's time now that you have to mentally prepare yourself. And it doesn't matter if you're a new agent, like you talked about a new agent, they may have an advantage because they don't know any better, or somebody like me that went through 2005 and 6 and 7, and I had my best, some of my best years. I know I went through that before, so I can say, wow, I've gone through that. I can feel a little more confidence, unlike somebody that may not have. But I think for everybody listening, you got to be prepared right now to be focusing on the long game.
Mm-hmm.
It's the follow-up game. It's the having tons and tons of conversations and not getting an immediate result. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to panic because we only did one pending in the last month. We're positioning ourselves for 30 or 40. And you said it, it's right now, the people that stay in here and the people that are doing it at a high level or respectable, whatever you want to call it, the people, the winners, their business is going to explode after this. Same thing that happened last time, right? So what would you, I don't know if that wasn't really a question, it was more of a comment, but what would you say, what do you want people to take, the people that listen to this, what should they walk away with?
Well, I think you just touched on it briefly there. Well, touch on it is your mindset through this is going to be the most important thing. Is stay around positive people, stay around people that are cautiously optimistic. They're being realistic, but they looking to move forward and continue to grow, and maybe even a little excited about a challenging time. Because if we have our mindset right, we'll walk through this, and it will be painful. There'll be times where we'll say, you know what, I don't know if I want to do this, but we'll keep walking forward anyway. So just know that whether this is a short-term challenge or a long-term challenge, if you keep walking forward, you'll walk through it, because most won't. And if it's a long-term challenge, I mean, you've been through it, I haven't, but I know that many people did not stay through the challenging times, and many thrived because of the challenging times. So, I mean, I hope that it's not like that. But I also know that you got to be prepared for that. Ask yourself, am I willing to do whatever it takes? And whatever it takes, what you said, is a lot of work for no results. And then continuing to look and see, are the actions I'm taking the right ones? And if they are, even though you get no results, you keep moving forward and keep working for no money until you eventually build this pipeline, and whatever it is that needs to happen happens, and it blows up. Because I think right now it's a time of uncertainty, and a lot of people are scared, and we just need to continue to move forward and continue to adjust on literally a daily basis based on whatever new information we get.
Yeah, I can, something that we're doing right now that's a little different is I actually am doing it now. I started today is getting in there and signing up for all these REO accounts again, which is what I did in 2007, in 2008. I spent months calling banks, and I think, I've heard that is something that would make sense now. Also finding vacant homes. You and I need to have a side conversation
Yeah.
about a property we talked about. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then and finding homeowners, people like that. So looking outside of just the norm, okay, this is how I normally generate business. I want to look at some other ways of generating business. Do you have any other ways as well that you guys are focused on besides what I just said? Or
I mean, I don't know that I have any other ways. Honestly, I think another piece of it too is putting things together. There's a lot of houses that are for sale that have not gone on the market. We have a ton of them. Is making matches where somebody doesn't want 40 people through their home. We have a database of 7,000 people. We have 25 off-market listings. If we have a buyer for that house and that seller just wants, if we can get a buyer that will offer subject to viewing, and they don't want to even put it out there, that's a way to make those connections. I would say that's something to look at. Look at your database, your buyers and sellers, and is that in your best interest of your buyer and seller? It might be, it might not be. But if it is, then go ahead and make a connection. I think that's a source of business that's right in front of you that you may not normally think of, because typically we want to put it on the market, get 50 showings, 10 offers. That might not be what your seller wants. They may want to not have anybody in their house, which I get. I wouldn't. And they want one person in their house and they buy the house. So that's something to think about. I think that's a great source that we all have.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, man. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate your time. How do people get in touch with you?
You can, I'll give you my cell phone, 774-280-0353. Or you can email me at jim@jimblackgroup.com.
Awesome, my friend. Well, I appreciate you as always. And anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask, or what, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think that was a pretty thorough interview there. It was good. I think we went over pretty much everything I could have given.
All right, awesome. Any final, like this is the final Jim Black nugget, like what would you say is
So I think that I think the biggest suggestion is the thing that I haven't been doing is take time, block off that time for yourself. And I'm going to do that tonight. Time block off that time for yourself to have a little bit of fun. Because I think a lot of us have been stressed and have not been doing any of that. So make a decision today that you're going to do that. And by the end of it, before you go to bed tonight, put something in your calendar for that. Because if not, you're not going to get through this.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, dude, I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Thank you for doing this and spending time with us today.
Awesome. Have a great day.
All right. Awesome, dude. Cool, man. That was good. Thank you. All right. Let me
You're
figure out how I stop the other things going here now too. Right here, YouTube.